Hiya, Simon here. This is my little mini guide to installing a traditional standing seam metal roof. The one I'm using is from Lindab. It's a coated steel roof, but in a way is very similar to your zinc roof, copper roof, that kind of thing. So, the first step, which I've already done, which is kind of your basic roofing thing, is you look down here. So step number one is to board up your roof. Now I'm using 18mm OSB 3 sheets here. The traditional way of doing it is to use a plywood. OSB is just as good. The only difference is that it doesn't have the same pull-out force for nails, nail fixings, than the OSB. So with the OSB I've used 25mm screws. Takes a little bit longer, same effect really. So that's step number one, your boards. Step number two is to bung a membrane onto it. Now I've realised my hair looks completely and utterly crazy. It's a bit long, but it's been so windy today, and I've been wearing my headphones, earmuffs, so it's kind of created a bit of a bird's nest up here. Anyway, the roof pitch. So on a flat roof, which this used to be, this porch, you would normally build for the minimum pitch, I think, is a 1 in 80, and you build to 1 in 60 in order to get that, ensure that it is a 1 in 80. In Europe, usually their flat roof minimum pitch is 5 degrees, and in some instances 3. Now the 3 equates to a 1 in 16, or approximately that, and that's what I've made this to. So that is the minimum recommended slope for this steel roof. And so although they kind of say 5, 3 is the minimum if you've got no kind of upstands, so you've got no roof lights, you've got no chimneys to go round, those sorts of things where water might be able to collect, or snow, or whatever it is. So this porch is at a 1 in 16. So now we get to the next step after creating the general structure, and you look down here, put some plywood in place, which is going to be the backing for the good old fascia. So that's number 2, is fascia goes on before any of the top of the roofing. That's what I'm going to do now. Ooh. So I got to the end of my the front fascia, and this one's about 2 centimetres too short. I'd forgotten about the extra 20 millimetres that goes into the fold. So if I lay it like that without it being folded across, it's good. Bring it in to the single welt, and it's too short. So never mind. I'll go and cut another piece, and then should be ready to finish this this front bit off and over to the next stage. All right, refolded, recut, new sheet. Let's hope it goes on okay, shall we? So that's the front fascia of the porch. Still got to do the side, all of the returns back to the house. I'll do that tomorrow. It gives you at least an illustration. Fascia first. I decided with all of my fascias to do what is called a single welt. It's a fold basically, and partly the reason why is that we've got fairly thick fascias, and because of the amount of insulation we've got in the roof space, and I thought that basically what would have happened is if we'd have had somebody in to do it, or a very common way I've seen of people doing fascias is just basically using one very long strip of steel, and then obviously just becomes one continuous surface. and that would have probably saved me a lot of time. But in another sense, I don't like the look of it. When it comes to large areas, it sort of, for me, looks a bit like a battleship, and a bit too chunky and a bit too industrial. Whereas what I wanted to do is kind of soften the fascia areas on these a little bit more, and so I chose to do this slightly more intensive, slightly more difficult and time-consuming finish, but I think it looks nicer. Anyway, it's all in the eye of the beholder, they say, and you can have a look and see what you think. Here we go. You can see up here it matches the fascia here up on the flat roof section. Here we go. Okay, so now that I've got the fascia on, now we put in the or install the gutter bracket. And the reason behind that is that on the metal roof we have these clips that go first onto the eaves, and then we have an eave tray like this that goes over those. And the idea here is that the gutter bracket actually fits behind the eave tray like that, and so any water that drips down onto that goes straight into the guttering and not anywhere behind the fascia or anything like that. So these ones, according to Lindab, they're the Lindab galvanised gutters, 3mm per metre drop or slope. That's the job now. So gutter brackets are done, now it's time for the gutter. Okay, the gutter's in place now, and the next stage is to put on some clips that go along the eaves edge that are then going to hold in the eaves tray. So these are the clips that hold the eaves flashing on. They're 250mm wide, and they go onto the roof at 500mm centres. I'm screwing them down with 2 screws, which should be more than sufficient, I reckon, and yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, now those clips have been put in place. Very quick job, surprisingly, but they were hand cut and hand folded. But probably saw that in the main unedited videos. So now I'm going to put in place the eaves flashing. So this is the profile of the eaves flashing, which is folded in a particular way, obviously to stop any drips from going back up into the roof. And that again has been hand cut and hand folded from the coils of steel that I received. Now, when you buy this stuff, let's get these headphones off. When you buy this stuff, you can actually get these pre-folded from the suppliers, and you know, you just basically specify the folds, the angles, all that kind of stuff, and they fold it for you and then ship it on a lorry. I didn't, because partly I have no idea what kind of dimensions I needed, and I thought, well, let's just get the coils of steel and work it out later on. I'm glad I did, because I have so many varied different depths and folds on these, given the different sloped roofs and the curves and all that kind of stuff, that I needed to do them individually. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's put these on. So essentially, I'm going to bring you in closer here. Turn the camera around, and so what I want to do is, when I install this, I want to clip this eaves tray under. Can you even see that? So here, what I want to do is, this eaves tray essentially needs to go underneath these clips, and that stops the end from lifting up in the wind. And then on this fold, which is a weather check, I've got these clips again. I've cut these all by hand. They're 80mm wide and 2 per metre, and they go underneath that. I fold them round and then screw them to the board for the roof, supporting board. Now, a bit of a note here, you might be able to see here, there's a ridge. Now, what I've done here is I've put 18mm OSB here, and then here we've got 11mm OSB, essentially, so that when this eaves tray fits onto here, it sits below that edge. Okay, so we've got the eaves flashing on now, fairly straightforward job. And now what I'm doing is I'm just lining up the pans for installation. Now in this bit here, you can probably see behind me, I've got upstands, and I've got an internal corner and an external corner, which sort of makes it slightly more complicated, this. However, what you want to do when you're setting out your pans is you can of course start the roof and your first pan flush to the roof and then work your way across, but inevitably what's going to happen is that's going to be you're going to end up with a partial pan at the end of the roof, which is going to look asymmetrical. Now that may not bother you, so you can obviously do it like this. What I'm doing is actually is what I've done with all of the roofs. So all of the big roofs that I've done up there, I've had to cut a narrower pan on each end of the roof, and this is what I'm going to have to do here. So what I've done is I've just set these out this time round, and then I'm now measuring the remainder and getting that even, and then I'm going to cut some some external trays and start installing those. But obviously if you're not doing that, then what you can do is you can obviously measure up, cut your narrow pan for the verge, install that, and then Bob's your uncle, off you go across the rest of the roof. So I've lined this up, now I'm going to go and cut my staff.